Welcome to What to Do When, a podcast from real lawyers with real perspective, where we explore a variety of legal issues and scenarios. Each week, we focus on a new topic and discuss what to do when and if any of these legal scenarios ever happen to you or a loved one. With over 40 years of combined legal experience, our hosts offer their unique perspectives and insights on a range of real-life legal situations.
Hi, and welcome back to another podcast with us here at Critzer Cardani in Richmond, Virginia. I'm Jackie, and this is Scott.
Hello. What's on the docket for today, Jackie?
Today, what to do when your student is accused.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. What do you mean?
Accused of what?
Accused of what? Yeah.
I suppose really accused, right? I mean, what is that? It's a loaded word.
Well, I think what I wanted to address in this, because I think it's really, really important. Again, we as parents sometimes don't think through things because we're parents, and that makes no sense. It sounds like an oxymoron. But we send our kids to school, and we teach our kids to be honest, and we teach them to tell the truth and all those things. But sometimes there can be an accusation that maybe somebody said, hey, Billy sexually assaulted Bonnie in the locker room, whatever it may be. And we've trained our kids to go to the principal's office and tell everything that happened and do all these things. And it's just not smart. One of the things I always taught my kids, much to the chagrin of administrators, is you don't write a statement and you don't talk. You have them call me. Now, the schools have the right to interview your kid. They have the right to talk to them, all those things. They have the right to search their locker. People don't understand that. That's all. The right to privacy laws are different in a school, and we could get into all that. But what we're really trying to do is, parents, you need to educate your children on how to respond when they've been accused of a crime, especially.
And we're not talking about cheating. We will address cheating and other school crimes or school accusations in another podcast. So be watching for that in our juvenile series. But in this series today, what we're really talking about is being accused of a crime or being involved in a crime while you're at school, and whether it's the school resource officer or an administrator or a teacher or your student talking to their friends. Like these things, if somebody's being accused, right? So like Scott said, if somebody's, so-and-so saw so-and-so in the locker room, let's just be very frank about it, right? You're in the hallway and somebody grabs a girl's butt. Sexual assault?
Mm-hmm.
It is sexual assault.
Absolutely. It's an intimate part. Somebody touches it without permission. It's a sexual assault. Assault is an unwanted touching. Becomes sexual when it's
an intimate body part.
Yeah.
Butt, boobs, genitalia.
Yep. And, these things kids do all the time, but all of a sudden you're looking at something for instance. All of a sudden it's went from a dumb kid smacking somebody on the butt going down the hall to a sexual assault. So they go into the principal's office, they get called down and say, oh yeah, I did that, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, we're in a whole different ballgame, because when you come to hire us, which you should do immediately when your kid's accused, our weapons become less because your child has talked to a person. They've probably written a statement, because schools love children, even as witnesses, they love them to write statements.
Right.
And it's just not the best protocol. Again, we have to remember that in the context of being accused, in the context when you become a criminal defendant, you are innocent until proven guilty. So you have the right to remain silent, and you must exercise that right. If you do not exercise that right, that's the second part of the Miranda warning. It says anything you say can and will be used against you. That's the point. You don't want anything you say. You'd rather say nothing. And you may be totally innocent, and that's okay, but say, how many people have been convicted who've been totally innocent because they said something the first time, and the second time they're interviewed, they said something else because they didn't remember it right.
Right.
Kids are kids. So they don't have the sophistication, and when adults can't do it right. For instance, I remember a case where it was a very high-profile murder case, and the reason they got the guy, and it turned out in the DNA years later after he spent like 20 years in jail, that it wasn't him. But the thing they hung their hat on was he said he was at his Aunt June's during the thing, and he was at Aunt Sally's. And they go, oh, you lied about where you were. And they turned all that lie into evidence. And so kids are unsophisticated. They should not be trying to defend themselves in a situation where they've been accused. Maybe they did it, maybe they didn't. Maybe they committed a crime, maybe they didn't. But that's for them to prove and for us to defend and walk through and do the right thing. And there's where we're at now with this whole, I don't know what to call it, but we're in a situation now where things like when we were kids, maybe I could have smacked Jackie's butt going down the hall and she made a laughed about it or punched me in the face.
Sure.
Now we're going to the police and getting charges and warrants and all these things. And it's just a different posture. And we have to teach our kids you're in a different posture.
And it's important that all of our listeners understand we are not suggesting that the guy walking down the hallway who smacks the girl's butt is in the right. Or not saying that. And we're not saying that she's in the wrong for having taken it, getting hit on the butt by this same guy 15 times already this school year. And finally she goes to the administrator and says, look,
Absolutely.
I can't take it anymore. This is going on all the time. I ask him to stop. I tell him to stop, right? And then comes this reputation. We're not talking about a situation where a girl should keep her mouth shut and not report. Not at all. Girls, if you've been touched in a way that you don't want and you didn't invite and you don't want to have happen again, don't hesitate to make a report. That's not what we're saying.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. It's so important to know that. And that's what we're trying to do. We want to educate parents to know both sides of this, but right now we're talking about when you're the criminal side of it. So when you're, when you've been accused, you don't have to say anything and you shouldn't say anything. But that's, again, people take that sometimes. I hear all the time on our podcast, well, you just pretty much told us to lie. No, I didn't. I don't want you to lie at all. Actually, lying's the worst thing you can do because then you're really putting yourself, because sometimes lies are easy to unearth and prove that they're lies. So do not lie.
No, we're saying hush.
So you go, what do? You get pulled down the office. I get pulled down the office. They say, Scott, we heard you smack Jackie's butt. We're going to use that analogy. I mean, it could be stealing. It could be anything. You're charged with taking a laptop. You're taking whatever,
AirPods.
cell phone, AirPods. I mean, the myriad. It could be assault. You could have said you punched somebody in the locker room. So, I mean, there's any crime that involves. So you as a child, you're walking down the hall. Your first thought should be, I'm going to ask for my parents to be here. They're going to say maybe no, but ask.
Sure.
I want my parents here. And parents, you should be on the ready to know that if that call comes, your conversation with your child is you don't say a thing. Do not answer a question. Do not write a statement. Do not do anything. We'll get an attorney if we need to, and a lot of people go, I don't, this is silly.
They don't have anything to hide.
They
We
don't have
should just
anything
tell
to
them what
hide.
happened.
Yeah. And I get that. And I want our kids to be honest, but there's a time and a place and I hate to say that. It sounds like I don't want kids to be honest. I do want them to be honest, but I don't want them to be honest at their jeopardy. And they have the criminal law is set so the people accusing you have to prove that you do wrong. You don't have to incriminate yourself. You don't have to tell. And that's why we set it up that way. There's a moral structure there that I explained. But the bottom line is, it's not lying. It's just they don't have the right to the information. So we don't have to give them the information. They have to get it for themselves. And if they do, that's great and we can move. So we just want you to be clear. Accused, ask for your parents, get a lawyer involved, walk through the process, say nothing, write nothing, don't get involved. Witness, same thing. Say Jackie saw what happened in the hall.
I saw the theft happen.
Yeah, she saw Johnny, or she thinks she saw Johnny.
There you go.
That's even better because I've seen that too. But the bottom line is the school's going to say, all right, Jackie, write a statement.
Right.
And I'm just to the point because things get so twisted and convoluted that you write a statement, you're young, you're immature, you may write something in the moment that you're thinking, and then you go home and you're like, oh, you know what? That's not really what I saw. I didn't really see. Now that I think about it, that was a candy bar, not the cell phone. I thought it was a cell phone because I had the cell phone in mind. And kids are so impressionable. A principal may come to her and say, Jackie, did you see him steal that cell phone out of the locker? Oh, yeah, I saw him take it out of the
over there,
locker.
and I saw something come out. So it must have been the cell phone.
I'm a big advocate, and I tell my kids this all the time. Don't get involved. Obviously. I don't mean don't get involved. If you saw a crime, go talk to your parents and get help, and you want to report and you want to advocate for that person who was harmed. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying do it the right way. Make sure you have somebody to talk you through it and walk you through it. Don't just do it on the spur of the moment, and teach our kids to slow down. They don't have to do this all in a rush, in a heated rush, which everybody wants to do.
I think it's important to remember that, if 10 people see a car accident happen, there are 10 perspectives.
Absolutely.
Somebody's going to say the light was green. No, it was red. No, actually, it was turning from green to red. I mean, there are just different perspectives. And when we are young, and even as adults, we are impressionable and the memory gets twisted and turned. And so it is important to talk to your parents, talk to an attorney if you feel like you saw some assault happen or you saw somebody steal something out of a locker, out of a backpack. It's important to talk about those things with someone who can help you file a proper report if one needs to be filed.
Yeah, and give yourself to really chance to walk it through. Parents, we should be telling our kids, okay, what did you really see? And it's okay. Let them walk through it and tell the truth. I want them to be involved if they need to report crimes and do those things, but we need to do it right, and we need to slow down, and we don't have to do everything the school tells us to do and start writing statements and making statements and doing all this stuff right off the bat. It's important. And, we at Critzer Cardani have handled thousands of juvenile cases, literally thousands, multiple thousands. And I've seen so many things happen that shouldn't have happened, and kids get in trouble for things they probably didn't even do, and vice versa. And it's just really, really important to know when your kid's accused, what to do. And how we instruct our kids is so important. I remember most of my kids' friends go, my kids are just funny. They'll be like, you didn't write a statement, did you? Because they know I've taught them that. I've been great in their head. That doesn't mean my kids haven't been witnesses in cases and haven't had evidence and all those things. But it's just important to know how to do it, when to do it. And the bottom line is, if you're accused, say nothing, write nothing. First, say nothing, write nothing. You don't have any obligation to tell your story. Ask for a parent. If you're uncomfortable in that situation where they're interviewing, say, hey, I'd really like my parents here. If they say no, say, okay, but I'm still not going to say anything.
Even if you're comfortable and you feel like you can answer all of their questions, your better step is to ask for a parent to come up there. And here's what's hard. Some kids, in all fairness, don't have a parent they feel like they can trust to come to the school and stand by their side, right? Some teenagers probably are going to say, if my mom gets called down here, or my dad gets called down here because I've been accused of A, B, C, or D, all they're going to do is stand there and scream at me and tell me, why did you do this? They're never going to believe I didn't do it. And I get that. And what do you do then?
Well, and that's why I say you're better off not to say anything. I mean, your bottom line comes back to don't say anything, don't do anything. Because a lot of parents will come in because of them wanting to do the right thing, which, again, I agree with. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with taking action as a parent. But when you go in that situation, you go, all right, Jackie, you tell the truth right now, or I'm going to kick your ass when we go home, or whatever they say. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But that's what happens in these cases. So this kid gets scared to death, and he just spills the beans, and he may not even know what he's saying. At that point, there may be such anxiety and such fear that he may be admitting to something he didn't do. You don't know how many people have falsely told a story just to get out of trouble, get out of the pressure of it. Or
false confessions happen. That's real.
Confessions, that's what I was looking for. Or they believe they've committed a crime when in fact they haven't.
Sure.
So there's all these things that play into it. So ask for a parent. If your parent comes and, I get it. Sometimes as a kid, you got to do what you got to do. And I feel for that. But my point is, your best strategy is say nothing, write nothing, ask for a parent. And the other takeaway I'd have is, if you're involved as a witness and you saw something, talk to your parents before you get involved in writing statements and making statements and being involved. I want you to be involved if you saw something. That's not the issue. But we need to make sure you saw what you saw and you don't get in a situation where you've accused somebody of something they didn't even do. And for instance, when you're talking about the cell phone and it was a candy bar, you've just published a defamatory statement against Jackie saying she stole a cell phone, and the videotape shows it was a candy bar, and everybody's asking, why are you lying? And you weren't lying. You really thought that happened.
Right.
So it's just being smart. It's just being careful. And it's being, look, school's about teaching the Constitution, but they don't teach the Constitution. They don't teach your rights. They teach you everything but your rights. And we are here to try to teach you your rights and instruct you in the fact that, I know we come back to this all the time, but you have the right to remain silent.
Right.
You have the Sixth Amendment right and the Fifth Amendment right and the Fourth Amendment right and all these amendments that are out there. And they put them in there. They put them in the Constitution as amendments to protect your rights. So we need to teach our kids to protect their own rights. It's very important.
Well, thanks again for joining us today in our juvenile criminal defense or juvenile accused series. We have more coming for you in this series, juvenile criminal defense when it comes to sexual assault. What is it? How to defend against it? And we have podcasts every week. We would love to hear from you. If you or your student is going through a situation and you have questions about it, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at info@cclawva.com so that we can address that.
And also, if you have any ideas, something you want to hear on, please do the same. You can send us a slip, and remember to like and subscribe.
Thanks again.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of What to Do When. For more episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, and we encourage you to check our archives to listen to previous topics. Tune in next week for a new episode and some fresh perspective from Critzer Cardani.